I would like you to start it that way next time. You know, it's funny. Like the one time Corbin's not on the show is when everything is broken.
It's true. Well, I guess that's what we get for introducing some new exciting failure points in the broadcasting mechanism.
We can probably figure out how to automate it in the future. All right, sweet.
Stream is
Okay.
all good now. Okay,
great. Thank you, Corbin.
Let's start it again.
So this is a new stream, so we probably have to delete the old tweet.
No, I'm pretty sure this went back to.
I see two live tweets. One from 2 minutes ago and one from now.
All right. Well,
so we'll have to kill the old one.
Yeah, somebody delete one of those. Yeah. We'll get started anyway.
YouTube chat says they're hearing us, and it's on the old one.
YouTube should carry over. Twitter is through Periscope, so it might have created a new one.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Anyway, we'll give it a second here.
Peek behind the curtain at all of our failures.
Okay. Well, we'll just go ahead. I mean, honestly, does anybody really care about the intro anyway? And we're
it's probably okay.
Yeah. Salutations, everyone, and welcome to the Android Please Pod. That was really weird. I'm David Renick. I wanted to try something new, and it got very strange.
Do you want to start again or just keep going?
Yeah, I'll do it again.
Okay.
Welcome to the Android Please podcast. I'm your host, David Reddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Cody Toombs.
And I'm Ryan Hager.
And I feel like we've done this before. I don't know. It's weird. Deja vu. Speaking of deja vu, Samsung's released another Galaxy Note, and it's a lot like the last Galaxy Note, except this one costs $1,000. Reviews are popping up all across the internet this week. I'm sure you've seen some of them. Ours went up this morning. We'll have a review on the video channel, hopefully next week, I'm thinking. And the short of it is this. It's the most expensive mainstream Samsung phone ever. And it's the best one ever. I mean, the battery is really big, so the phone finally lasts like a significantly long time. This is a good day-and-a-half smartphone. Easily seeing 6+ hours of screen on time on the Note 9, which is great. Couple that in fact, it has an amazing screen, really good cameras, software that doesn't immediately make you want to throw it, and headphone jack, wireless charging, IP68 waterproofing. It's really, it has everything and the kitchen sink in a single device. And my belief is that if you're going to buy a Samsung phone right now, or if you're going to buy a big smartphone right now, this is the one to get. I don't see anything coming out later this year that's really going to best this in a big way. And I think probably most people will be pretty happy with the Note 9 as long as they're okay with the size. It is a big phone.
Yeah, so it's $1,000, but I feel like that number has gotten a lot more press than I expected, because the Galaxy Note 8, if you bought it from AT&T, it was like $960 or something. It's not that much more expensive than the last one.
It's not, and you get twice the storage, and you get a much bigger battery. So the price hike is at least, on paper justified.
Yeah, there's something psychological about saying this phone is $1,000 instead of saying this phone is $900 something. It's like everybody has just sort of come to terms with the fact that a really high-end phone is just going to cost $1,000 now.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that when you compare to, for example, the other $1,000 phone, which is the iPhone X, I think with the Note, you're getting demonstrably more for your money in certain regards. The iPhone X battery life is not particularly good. The display on the Note is probably a fair bit better. And I think you're getting, the headphone jack, you're getting, faster wireless charging, you're getting stuff that Apple can't quite. Granted, Apple has other advantages, but I just think as a piece of hardware, the Note makes more sense at $1,000 than the other well-known $1,000 phone. So I think Samsung, isn't out of their minds charging that money for it.
So, the stylus has Bluetooth, but it doesn't do anything other than let you click the button from further away, right? It's the only thing.
That's it. Yeah, you can't use it as a laser pointer.
That makes me sad. I was hoping that if they were going to do Bluetooth, it was going to do something interesting and fun.
Well, So the whole thing is basically, I think that people who love the Note have been begging Samsung for years, like saying, I want to use it as a slide advancer for my presentation, or I want to use it as a remote shutter for the camera. Guess what? Two things it does immediately out of the box. So it does both of those, and I think that satisfied probably 95% of why people wanted that wireless feature in the first place. For the other stuff, for people who like to get a little more tinkery, Samsung will be releasing SDK for the S Pen, a stylus with its own SDK. It's really basic though. The only thing the S Pen can do wirelessly is click button, and so that's all the SDK does. It will let you program single click and double click actions, and if your app wants to do something with those, it can do something with those with the S Pen. That's it. So yeah, because the long press action is permanently mapped to app launching on the phone, so you can map that to any app on the phone right out of the box. And otherwise, I think by default it's mapped to launching the camera. You long press it and the camera launches, and then you tap for the shutter or double tap switch between the front and the rear cameras. Which, I mean, like they're like, you can put your phone on a tripod, and I'm like, who's putting their phone on a tripod to take a picture? But if you're just taking a selfie and you don't want to like reach for the screen shutter, and it's true, the stylus is easier. Will most people remember to do that when they're taking a selfie? Probably not. But maybe some people will.
Yeah, I'm super interested in the charging mechanism. I think that's really clever. How it just inductively charges a capacitor when it's in the phone, and then you take it out and it lasts for what, like half an hour or something.
Yeah, it lasts half hour on standby or 200 clicks, and it is pretty.
Did you ever
close.
like? I have a Note 9, but I've literally I've used it for like 2 minutes. Did you manage to like drain the stylus? Does it like?
Oh yeah,
we did it.
You just keep clicking.
Yeah.
You can train it under like 2 minutes, just clicking it very well.
So what does the phone do? Like, it still works as just a stylus, right?
Yeah, it still works in the semi-passive mode. I mean, so because the inductive field from the screen, still gets the coil and the pen, so it still works for that.
It just kills the button.
Yeah, it just kills the button, and then the phone's like the stylus is dead, and that's pretty much it.
How's camera performance compared to like the S9? Is it like exactly the same, or?
Yeah, so the camera change. And by the way, the stylus charges inside the phone in 40 seconds. It's really fast. So it lasts for 30 minutes on standby and 40 seconds to charge it in the phone. But as to the point of the camera, so these are the same cameras from a hardware perspective as you get on the Galaxy S9 Plus. I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung's using a slightly newer revision of sensors, maybe for their own ones or something like. But I would bet, all the main stuff, all stuff that actually matters is the same. So you get the 2x telephoto lens, you get the standard 12 megapixel. They're both 12 megapixel on the back, and you get the 8 megapixel front-facing camera. The thing that's been added is you now get this AI-powered scene detection, which is exactly the same thing as you get on like Huawei and LG phones now. It's the same thing. I'm surprised it took Samsung this long to get on with this gimmick, because it's like the ultimate, like it's the lowest hanging machine learning fruit for a manufacturer to be like, look, your phone has AI. It knows what it's looking at. I mean, like when you say it that way, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. What does it do with that information? It's like Instagram filters. Like, that's basically it, right? So I was playing with it, and honestly, the scene optimizer is what they call it. I think it can make photos worse. So here's an example. Like the flower one, I tested this myself. So when Samsung was giving us this briefing about the phone, like, hey, yeah, look at this picture of the flower. Like, look at what scene optimizer off and look at it on. And so I was looking at the photos, and the one where it's on, the flower has a lot more intense contrast. Like the sharpness around the edges especially is ramped way up, and so it looks more punchy, definitely. But what I noticed is a picture of a sunflower. They'd introduced low lights in the center of the sunflower, where previously the thing was evenly lit. And so to me, that was like, that's actually a worse photo, guys. Like you've introduced flat spots in the picture, and that's generally bad, especially for something taken in daylight. So I tried the flower mode too with some flowers, and I had the same issue. It made the photo way too dark. So I think the idea that there is intelligence being applied to your photos, that's not true. There's intelligence being applied to determine which filter to put on your photo. the intelligence is not determining how to process the photo. The intelligence is just like, this is category A, so this goes with filter C. You know, like that's just, it's really basic. My video is frozen, so I will let somebody else talk.
So what is the performance like on the phone? Is it basically identical to the Galaxy S9?
Well, I think people are saying so. Unfortunately for me, like the performance, mine was a bit like kind of back and forth. So it still has a typical Samsung jitters, I would say, like where you get like the animation stutters that I just don't see on like the Pixel or OnePlus phones anymore. You know, Samsung still managed to have some of those, and also their animations, like people point out in my review, like the animations are set super slow out of the box. A lot of people, I guess, have started speeding them up. I don't generally do that because they don't bug me. Also, the touchscreen latency still has that slightly jello-y effect. And my opinion is that Samsung does this intentionally for the old people. Because it makes it much more forgiving, I think. Like, I've noticed it's harder to accidentally press something on a Samsung phone. Like, I would say the kind of edge awareness is very aggressively managed. Like, if it detects an errant input, like it's much less likely to do something about it. Like it's basically like a palm rejection, but for random inputs on the touchscreen. And so it makes it feel less twitchy, which I think is what a lot of people want. But at the same time, it makes it feel a little drunk compared to like a Pixel or a OnePlus phone, where you get what you want just like exactly as you do, especially with the Pixel. The Pixel is just, the screen latency is just perfect for touch. Like it's not quite iPhone, but it's so close. And with the Note 9, you go back to that and you're like, oh, well, that's just how it is. Because I can type like a fiend on the Pixel 2. I can go so fast. And on the Note 9, I feel like I have to be like, because the screen just doesn't seem to respond to those rapid inputs as quickly. People have told me I'm nuts, but I notice it. So I think the performance is fine for most people, though. I don't think most people are going to look at this phone and be like, oh, it's slow. It's not slow.
It just moves about in a leisurely way.
It does. It does move about. The animations are leisurely, and I just think that's how Samsung is choosing to do things. So I think that's definitely their choice. I think that, again, overall, though, like compared to the S9 Plus, yeah, the performance is basically the same. And supposedly it'll hold up better under like intense applications because the heat spreader on the processor is now 3 times as big as it was on that phone.
I don't think it was really thermal throttling on the S9, though, was it?
No, there wasn't. But I think that if you're, doing games and stuff, it probably matters to some degree.
Games? You mean like Fortnite? Like the Samsung exclusive Fortnite for 3 days?
Not anymore.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I haven't actually played the Fortnite game on mobile.
Is that actually installed on the phone when you get it?
No. Absolutely not. Yeah, I haven't played that at all.
I'm sure it's terrible.
Matt's review seemed to indicate as much, and I saw several other reviews that were basically like, why would you do this to yourself? And yet the teens are all about it. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, it is super popular. If you buy a Note 9, Samsung's like, hey, do you want $100 worth of Fortnite money? Or whatever their currency is.
Yeah, and they also offer you these headphones that like I thought they were actually went for like $170 or something. It turns out they're $300 wireless Bluetooth headphones from AKG.
Oh, wow.
Take those, sell them, and keep the extra money if you want your Fortnite V-Bucks.
That's that actually makes buying the Note 9 a little bit more appealing. Like,
I mean, I'm guessing there's going to be a sudden glut of those headphones on the used market, but like,
and I believe they're only giving out the headphones for pre-orders, so the chance of that's already passed.
Like, if you order that phone and you're like, I don't need these headphones, you sell them for like $250.
Pre-orders are up until the 23rd, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so you can still keep doing that. The other thing, so if you are wanting to buy one of these and you want the very best deal, I know T-Mobile is doing a really aggressive device credit thing, like they usually do. I think T-Mobile is giving like $500 off or something up to, depending on like how you qualify the promo. I think Costco is doing the thing where if you do the trade-in, they'll just give you the trade-in value as a Costco gift card. So you don't have to have it applied to your statement over 1 billion years. So if you're a Costco member, that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, the price on carriers, it's the same as the unlocked price. I feel like
it is. It's $1,000.
I feel like the unlocked one is probably the way to go.
Well, I mean, so if you go to Costco, like they don't have the unlocked one at Costco, so you got to buy it through carrier because they want you to agree to the service. So I think that, yeah, sure, the unlocked one resales a little better, but not a whole lot better. Probably like $50 to $75, at the end of the day of resale value difference, unless it's Sprint, in which case it's probably like $200.
Styles. There's a big one and two small ones.
They offered 2 colors for the 42 millimeter and 1 for the 46 millimeter.
Okay, that was
42.
neat.
I don't know if this is under embargo or not.
Sliding back in.
Oh, we're back up.
Okay. If you guys heard anything about what I was just saying, none of you can share.
You're all collectively under embargo now.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's under embargo.
I'm
just looking
okay.
here. Yeah, it's not under embargo. It's fine.
Okay. It's only
Anyway.
semi-secret stuff. Okay.
It's not that serious.
Do we have any other note stuff we want to talk about? Otherwise, we can just maybe move on, have a clean break there.
Okay. Moving on. Let's talk about the Moto Z3, which honestly, probably we don't need to talk about it much. But
I mean, it's so boring. It's just such a boring, pointless phone. It should have been the non-Force Moto Z2 last year. That's what this phone should be. It has most of the same specs. The screen is different, fingerprint sensors in a different spot, but otherwise, like that's the phone they should have released in 2017, and they didn't. And now it's kind of too late because this phone just looks like an old piece of hardware next to everything else.
it is.
But I will grant the price isn't bad. I mean, for a Verizon phone, it's $480. That's okay. And it's still a fast device. Like the Snapdragon 835 is not terrible or anything. It's just obviously it was designed from the ground up to be a little bit cheaper because Verizon's like subsidizing the hell out of it because this is going to be their 5G phone in early 2019. They're going to release the 5G mod and they want people to have that. And I would wager if you buy this phone with a 5G mod, it's going to cost a similar amount to like a flagship phone.
So I'm curious about that, and honestly, I think if they apparently the volume is really low, Corbin. Anyway, I what I'm curious about in regard to this is if they are, I think it's asinine to charge for the 5G mod. You're basically saying, Verizon, please let me pay you to be a guinea pig for your new network. Like that's kind of a dick move, I think, like on Verizon's part. Not only are we going to make you buy this phone that's a year old and wait for the 5G mod, then we are going to charge you money. Also, Verizon has indicated they want to make 5G a premium service tier.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see if they actually do charge for the mod. I feel like people buy this in such small numbers that maybe they won't charge for the mod. Maybe they'll be like, you can get the mod for free. Got to sign up for a year of Verizon 5G, and probably they will only sell it to people who live in launch markets.
Yeah, probably. But I can't really recommend that anybody should go out and purchase this phone, because when 5G launches, it's not going to be a thing you really care about.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it'll be fast in certain circumstances. I mean, just based on the demos that I saw, there are going to be a lot of like connectivity issues with 5G. I asked Motorola, like, because they had this demo where they had the mod, like a functional version of the mod, and like a small like 5G antenna, like in the same room, and they were like, look, it goes at like 4.5 gigabits. I'm like, that's awesome. And then the guy waves his hand in front of the antenna, and connection just goes away, like completely.
Welcome to millimeter wave.
And he's like, it's millimeter wave. And he's like, we'll have the actual antennas will have beam steering to sort of compensate for this. And there are 4 different antenna clusters in the mod. And I'm like, okay, but what about if you're inside? Like, beam steering isn't gonna like steer around the
5G
wall.
does not get indoors.
And he's like, well, we think people will build indoor networks. I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's basically the idea. So for big event spaces and like high foot traffic zones, they want to put like 5G small cells in there and just like try to just fill entire interior buildings. It's in spaces like stadiums. I think sporting arenas and such like that, those are going to be probably the big 5G ones. Probably like big.
Those are going to be the only places that benefit from it, really.
I bet you could get like casinos. You could do like just places where people congregate, and outdoors too, like probably major urban areas outside. Apparently 5G propagates, or millimeter wave propagates pretty well against glass and concrete, because it bounces a lot. So it's definitely doable for major metro areas outdoors. But yeah, I think carriers are very hot to trot, especially AT&T and Verizon, to demo millimeter wave, as is what 5G is all about. Realistically, that's probably the easiest one to roll out on an early basis, because Qualcomm's got the modem
unused.
Yeah, it's unused. Qualcomm's got the modem ready, and there's just less to there's just far fewer headaches to deal with, and you can be like, we got it, it's out there. Whereas rolling out to mid band and low band for 5G, that's harder, and it's going to take a lot longer, and probably involves co-opting a lot of existing cellular equipment and doing a lot of infrastructure upgrades. So
I'm impressed at how much of what T-Mobile's promised when it comes to the deployment of the new 600 and 650 megahertz stuff. They said all of it's going to be compatible with 5G in a year.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But I mean, like how you can't cram as much data into a 600 megahertz signal as you can.
Yeah, you can't. But the idea is for T-Mobile is, hey, we can use the increased spectral efficiency and the lower latency, and it's going to provide a better user experience.
Yeah, I mean, so like Qualcomm is very keen to point out that their latest generation of LTE modems can still do like significantly more than a gigabit.
Yeah,
I think they're counting on people kind of not knowing if they're connected to 5G or not. Like they'll just think, hey, this is really fast, and I'm using a 5G phone. It must be the 5G.
Well, and T-Mobile, like I saw, like Neville Ray just posted a thing today where they have one of their new LAA sites up in some city somewhere, and it gets like 600 megs down. So like that's quote 4G. So,
I mean, for anything that I'm going to do on my phone, I feel like 600 megabits is fast enough right now.
Yeah,
for the foreseeable future.
600 megabits is that's like as fast as your NAND can probably do random RW.
Yeah.
Like that's getting like
way up there. And another Motorola had all these just great demos. But they were like, hey, look, if you need to download a bunch of stuff on your phone, here's how long it would take with 5G and 4G. And they had this like graph, and it's like, look, we finished downloading 600 songs and like downloading 10 HD Netflix movies. And I'm like, okay, but if this were real, I would have like blown through my data cap already. Like, not what I think the point of 5G should be. It's that your phone can wake up and like grab data and like the modem can go off faster.
Yeah, because we all know the data caps are going to go immensely up as soon as 5G hits. Carriers are going to be like, great, we can raise our data caps from like 23 gigs to 230, no probs.
Yeah.
That's definitely what's going to happen.
Yeah. They certainly won't ask for any more money either.
No, I don't think so. I think that's very unlikely.
Yeah. No, carriers don't actually like making money. Little known fact, AT&T actually likes to give money away to its customers.
I go to the AT&T store for my check every week.
Yeah.
So I think this phone is pretty irrelevant, and 5G will have plenty of opportunities to talk about it down the road. Let's get to Google stuff. Ryan wrote a story this week about an upcoming Google Wear OS product. We assume it's Wear OS at least, called Google Coach, which is Google's take on a fitness and wellness assistant.
You might think Google already has like a wear-oriented fitness thing called Google Fit, and you are correct. They do have that, but it is terrible. It doesn't do many things, and the things that it does do, pretty mediocre. So Google Coach is going to be sort of an AI-oriented take on this. So it will learn like the sorts of things that you like to do for exercise and like where you are, and it'll recommend ways that you can get workouts in. If you miss workouts, it'll know that, and it'll sort of reschedule things. And it can connect to your calendar, and it knows like when you're going to be home, when you have other stuff to do, and you can ask it to make meal plans for you. And it'll know how many meals it needs to make for the week. If you're just like out someplace and you want to get lunch, it can see what's nearby and tell you what you should order. That's not a horribly unhealthy option. These are all things that it could do, not anything that it does, because it doesn't exist yet. But it might in the not too distant future be a thing that comes to Wear OS, and will also have some sort of connection to Android on phones. Probably just to like check your stats or settings or whatever. And then later they might have some sort of integration with other Android stuff like TV and Google Home. But it's probably going to be a Wear OS thing first and foremost.
Well, I guess we'll see how that unfolds. Another Google rumor that came out this week, and I would say this happens every 2 years. This rumor comes out.
Blast from the past.
Google's going to build a retail store, guys. It's
a
real store with real Google stuff in it in Chicago, which is interesting.
Well, I guess the location where it's at is somewhere that Steven frequents when he goes over there for food, the Fulton Meat Packing District.
Yeah, so there have been rumors over the years consistently that Google wants to build retail stores. The most recent one came out last year. It said Google wanted to build like legit retail stores in India to try and get a foothold in the Indian market. Those didn't ever seem to pan out. And so this says that Google's like real close. Like Google's got the space picked out, they're just closing up on things. They're finalizing details and they're going to start work. So maybe, I wonder if it's really going to be a Google store or if it's going to be a Google like product demo space. Like, will you be able to go to this store and buy a Pixel phone? I would be surprised if so.
The space size seems a little large to me to be retail.
Yeah, it does seem really big. I think maybe it's more of a like, hey, here are like a bunch of Chromebooks. Here are like some Android Auto head units you can play with. Like, here are some watches. I think it's probably, to me, I bet Google won't sell stuff. Maybe they'll sell like cases and like, shirts and accessories and things like that. But I would bet this will end up being something more like a product showcase than it will an actual retail store. And maybe the revenue model is just like, or maybe there's a revenue model. Maybe it's just like an advertising thing. It's just a physical advertising.
Or like you get a free home mini when you walk in the door.
Yeah. So we don't have many details about this. We know the location, we know like the space, and beyond that, it's just like, well, Google's got a big building. They're going to put some stuff in it.
So why not sell stuff though? Like in practical terms, if you've got this big retail space or whatever space, call it retail or not, why not sell something there?
I think there actually are good reasons for this, especially as it regards phones. Activating a phone on a carrier in a retail store. I think Apple has managed to make this pretty seamless, but it's still a thing. And I think that you have to have the you have to have staff and you have to have systems set up. You know, you have to activate on all 4 carriers, you know, plus Project Fi. I'm sure Project Fi is obviously no problem for them. But would you want to walk into a store and somebody hands you a phone? It's like, all right, you know, figure out the whole service thing. Bye.
Apple had the clout to be able to make that whole process very easy by forcing all of the carriers to do it their way. Google doesn't really have that same level of influence.
No, and I mean, is AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint going to be like, oh yeah, totes cool. We'll let you get to our activation system. We'll make you a third-party retailer. Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not really sure how that all works. I know Best Buy obviously can do it, but that's because Best Buy is kicking back money to these carriers when they make these sales. So I just think that's a big one. You know, maybe the only thing they won't sell is phones. Maybe they'll sell all the other Google stuff like Homes and Chromecast and all that business. But I don't know. I feel like selling phones requires some special sauce to really make it work.
I mean, or they could just only activate them on Fi
or Verizon.
Oh yeah, I guess Verizon will still be like the carrier partner. Yeah.
There's also something to be said for the location. Choosing Chicago might not just be for Chicago's sake. It's very central in the United States. This could be a product experience showroom, sort of like
so we can all make our pilgrimage to the Google store,
exactly.
and it won't be too far for anybody.
Sort of like the hands-on that Samsung does at their locations, which are these not necessarily entirely publicly accessible. Like this is in a central location, easy to get to.
I don't think so. I think maybe not from our perspective, at least. I mean, Google's working on a huge new building in Mountain View, and that's going to be like, if there's any place where Google's going to be super proud to show off their products, it's going to be that space.
Yeah, it would be San Francisco, New York.
This is coming out of the Chicago Tribune, which, in all fairness, that's a very localized print. They know about Chicago news and situations. They don't necessarily keep a very close finger on the pulse of, let's say, San Francisco or anything like that. So if Google could be opening a lot of these stores and we only just know about this one.
That's entirely
possible.
Yeah. I would think that, you know, maybe we would have heard more about it, but then again, you know, I mean, probably real estate and retail is such a side of Google that, you know, it's smaller and not really probably tapped into as sources at this point, that maybe there's just not a lot of good material to get. But we'll see what happens with it. I think the idea of Google retail stores is very interesting. I think Google definitely has a big enough product portfolio now to support this. Like between Google Home, Chromecast, and then partner products on Android TV, Android Auto, and Wear OS.
Also Nest.
And Nest. Nest is it's a completely forgot about that. Nest is a huge one. Google could make a pretty compelling retail, like all-in-one experience. Like you walk into the store and Google will be connected to every aspect of your electronic life.
Well, in practical terms, this is no different than a Microsoft store, or could be no different than a Microsoft store. They very much could fit all those tickets.
I think Google has more first-party products than Microsoft ever has.
Yeah, Microsoft stores are largely third-party things.
Yeah, and it also, to some extent, depends on whether or not you're counting Xbox, which I know some of the Microsoft stores were for a while. I don't know if they do now, but if they don't, they should.
Yeah, that's true. They do have Xbox. And there is that rumor of Google doing a game console streaming thing, which I'm sure will be so interesting.
Did you see me
anyway, speaking of cringeworthy things, Motorola, oh man, they made a phone for China, just for China. And probably that Motorola outside China is like, please don't write about this. Because it's called the Moto P30, which sounds like a Huawei phone, and it looks exactly like the Huawei P20 Pro. Like it's not just uncanny, it's like
it is the exact same wacky color scheme that the Twilight color, which is very pretty. It's a very pretty color, but it's so obviously stolen.
It's a ripoff. Like it's not even.
But then like the front, it has like a very iPhone-y notch. Like it has the extra wide notch, even though I feel like it doesn't need to be as wide as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's that giant Motorola logo on the bottom going across.
Like how cynical! This is getting back to like the truly cynical days of Chinese smartphones when they would name them in a way where it's meant to call to mind the competitor's product. Like, so Huawei has the P20 out. What's the next phone? The P30. Haha! Not if we release it first. Like that's kind of like that's a dick move. That's not even. It's not defensible at all. That's just being like, hey, you can't copyright P30. Like, it's just numbers and letters. Haha, we did it first. Also, we stole your stupid color scheme. Like, Lenovo, I would be personally ashamed to be working for Motorola when this was announced, because it's it is tactless. It is untasteful. It is bad. I mean, whether or not this is a good phone stands totally aside now of the fact that it is a blatant ripoff of another phone. And not in a way where it's just like all phones are the same now. It's like, no, literally, you guys copied another phone. It makes me a little upset.
I can
like
tell.
it's not cool, man. It's not cool. I feel like there's a gentleman's agreement about how far you can go in copying somebody else's phone. I feel like Chinese manufacturers have learned to like dance around the iPhone really well in the last 5 years, and then Motorola is like, yeah, but what if we just did the Huawei? And it's not Motorola, it's Lenovo, and I bet they're like, all right, we're not going to call it. Here's the real twist, guys. We're not going to call it a Lenovo phone. It's a Motorola. Boom. It's upsetting. And on that note, it's time for a plug. So the Android Please podcast, once again, is brought to you by TunnelBear. If you're looking for a VPN with a simple interface, really easy to use, has a great Android app, and is very secure, TunnelBear has been independently audited for security. They've had their code and service and app audited, and they pass with flying colors. So you can check it. Actually, they even published the results of the security audit. So if you're looking for a VPN that's super secure, TunnelBear is awesome. You should definitely check it out. And for our readers, if you want to support our podcast, if you go to tunnelbear.com/AndroidPolice, you'll get a discounted price of $5 per month, and you'll help support the show. Again, everybody's looking for VPNs these days, and TunnelBear is definitely one of the better deals out there. And I think with this security assurance, I think that's something we're all concerned about when somebody's handling literally all of our internet traffic. And I think TunnelBear has really done a good job of making sure everybody knows they're on the up and up. So again, if you want to check them out, it's tunnelbear.com/AndroidPolice, or you can just, download their app too. They have it for Android on the Play Store, and you can get privatizing, or not privatizing, but making your internet traffic more private. And now we're going to go back to 5G, apparently. I feel like this probably should have been bundled in with the Moto phone, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Sprint and LG say they're going to have the first 5G phone in America in the first half of the year, which sounds like two bad things that go badly together.
It's the second time Sprint's tried the millimeter wave / WiMAX stuff too, right? And it didn't really pan out.
Or WiMAX was not millimeter wave, though.
Was it not?
No, it was like,
I think that this phone is going to launch. It's going to launch on 2.5 gigahertz,
which is the old WiMAX spectrum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a do-over for WiMAX, sort of. So
WiMAX, the reckoning.
The interesting thing about this phone is that so according to PC Mag, which got an interview with Sprint about this, the hardware is done. Like the phone is locked in. And that means it's not going to have the next gen Snapdragon chip that has the built-in 5G support. So this will most likely have a separate 5G modem, which is probably going to be not great. So it'll have to have the two modems spun up pretty much all the time. But we don't even know what the phone is called. Like, for all we know, it's going to have like an 8,000 milliamp-hour battery and it's going to weigh 2 pounds. But hopefully not. I mean, there really aren't any other details, I guess, about the phone. Just that we know it's going to be 5G. It's going to be on 2.5 gigahertz, and it'll be a thing. But Sprint is only going to have 5G in 5 or 6.
Marcel Clark's basement,
yeah. I mean, they said they're going to announce more cities, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen in time.
And propagation on 2.5 is not as good as the lower bands. It's good. It's like Wi-Fi. Anywhere your 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi would reach is about as far as something like this would reach.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be perfectly fine for most buildings and indoor stuff, outdoor.
But for a building.
Yeah, a building. Yeah, it's true. It doesn't get far outdoors though. So, yeah, we'll see what happens with this. I think so. I bet it will have Snapdragon 850 or whatever they announced in December this year. I'm sure that's the chipset this phone's going to have. I don't think it's going to have Snapdragon 845. If it does, that's pretty lame. I don't think it'll have an integrated modem though, and I don't think Qualcomm has said their next generation chip will have the X50 integrated. I don't think they've ever made that promise. They've just said.
I don't think it's going to be. It's not. I don't think it's supposed to be the X50. I think it's supposed to be something else that can do LTE and 5G.
Really, it's not going to be the X50 modem because that's what PC Mag speculated. There would be the X50 modem paired with discrete SoC.
Right in this phone, yeah.
So that would be like an 845 plus the 5G modem.
Or an 850 or whatever else they come out with. Because I don't think Qualcomm has ever said that their next Snapdragon SoC will support the X50 on chip. I don't think they've ever said that. So
Yeah, well, I mean, so PC Mag speculated that it would have an 845 and then an X50 separately.
okay, yeah, maybe it will
And
then.
then supposedly, again, this is like based on what PC Mag reported, that they think it's going to be too early to have a next gen Qualcomm chip that would be able to do both.
My belief on the whole Qualcomm side of things is that Qualcomm is going to introduce their new Snapdragon chip in December, like they do every year. I have a feeling there's going to be a big that's how you guys are going to do it, because not everybody's going to want this X50 modem. In fact, most operators around the world do not want it because it introduces a huge cost. And also, if you've looked at those little millimeter wave antenna modules, like they're small, but they're not that small.
they're sizable as far as like
they're significant. Yeah, like they're like the size of like a really big.
And you have to have a few of them if you're going to do millimeter wave.
And so I know that means they're going to have to offer the next generation chipset without the 5G modem in it. And that's why they announced, what is it, the X24 or X something like that?
That's the X24 is like the best LTE modem they have.
Yeah, that's one of 1.5 gigabits or whatever download speed maximum. So I think when they talked about that, that's kind of what I said. Like, oh, I bet this is going to be in the next modem or the next processor. Anyway, you also, whatever this phone is, you probably also shouldn't buy it either. Like also, this phone will only work with Sprint 5G, guaranteed. Just as the Moto 5G mod will only work with Verizon 5G, guaranteed. This is how all these 5G things are going to be for like the first year and a half, at least, of 5G networks, because everybody's doing something slightly different.
Yeah, it took us a good 2 or 3 years before we got to the point that LTE modems just worked on everything. They had all the bands.
And they still don't always, because Verizon and Sprint are CDMA legacy, and Verizon and Sprint had basically said like, yeah, we're going to shut down CDMA, but there's no way we're actually changing our effective policy on this in terms of whitelisting and blacklisting.
Even T-Mobile, their band 71 stuff, the new low band, like not everything supports it because they only just bought it last year.
Yeah. So I think we'll see how that all plays out. And I think with 5G, it's going to be an even longer wait than LTE before we really see how the landscape shapes up. We have a few more topics to cover this week before we wrap up. Let's talk about phones getting Android Pie, which sounds, God, I can't get used to saying it. It's P, and Pie just sounds weird. It sounds unfinished.
The lack of a point and number weirds me out more. It sounds like
if you were going to like have a slice of pie and you just like you picked up the plate and you go, oh, look, it's Android Pie. There are little androids in it.
Oh, God. So Motorola, HTC, and Sony have all announced their Android Pie upgrade plans. Motorola, basically the latest Z phones, the G6 family, and no E phones or the G5 series. So basically,
they just came out.
The E phones, like literally a few weeks ago, they started selling these phones.
Okay, so did the E phones last year with Nougat ever get Oreo? I don't think they did.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's par for the course.
They learned their lesson when they said for like whatever was it, the E3, they're like, it'll get a major software update, and then and it was like 5.0 to 5.1 is what they considered major, because when Marshmallow came out, everybody's like, hey, we get this. Like, no, you already got your update. Like,
yeah.
I
think Moto, we'll see how fast they come. I just hope that Project Treble speeds this along.
I mean, it seems like it kind of is. We already got the essential phone update, like day and date with Pixels, and I mean there are several other devices that have almost finished Android P beta builds. And what was it? I think was it Sony that said the first phones are going to start to get it in November? That's pretty quick.
Reasonably quick. I mean, it's actually not historically any quicker than I think the first phones, non-Pixel, non-Nexus phones to get Nougat and Oreo were, though. We'll see what the general trend is. I'm sure JR Raphael will do his update report card, and we'll get a sense of what the speed increase has been like. But I know that, LG had a Nougat phone in October, and for Oreo, I'm not sure who was first, but I feel like probably LG.
I think it might have been Sony.
It might have been. So you're right. Sony actually might have had those in October or something. Like, they're pretty fast. So I think that Yeah, we'll see if the other. I think the big question is how much faster are they going to appear on carrier variants, and I bet the answer is not at all. HTC and Sony also announced their update plans for HTC, the U11 and U12 phones. Anything with the U11? I don't think the U11. Did they say the U11 Life is going to get?
Yeah, but that's an Android One phone, right?
Not in the US. It isn't.
Oh, did they launch it in the US?
Yeah, it's on T-Mobile. It was on T-Mobile briefly. I think they
you know what? I think the list said U11 Life in parentheses Android One, so they're probably saying only that version of it.
Yeah, so the US version, which nobody bought, and also the U11 Life is a garbage phone, so nobody should have bought it anyway. The U12 Plus will obviously get it. The U12 Plus family, there's no family for the U12. Like, it's one phone. And the why does HTC have X4 listed in the story in our Motorola, the Moto X4 will also get Pi. That's a given. It's an Android One phone. The U Ultra and U Play will not get Android Pi. Nobody bought those, so nobody cares. And for Sony, anything with an XE2 and XE1, and then the XE Premium and XA2 families, they'll all get Pi. The XA1 lineup will not. Seems pretty reasonable. The XA1's from what, like 2016? I think, right? Or is that last year?
Maybe just last year.
Yeah, I don't think it's that old.
Okay. Well, that sucks for the XA1s. And yeah, that's what we have for updates from everybody so far. LG and Samsung have yet to comment, and obviously Pixel phones have it already. I believe did OnePlus they'd have it before fall was over, right? Yeah, they said they would have it this fall.
And they said
I don't remember if they catch dates.
And they said they're, in addition to the OnePlus 6, they're doing the 5T and 3T.
I think they said this fall. I'm pretty sure they said this fall.
I'm still stunned the 3 is getting it. That's
impressive.
That's so cool.
Good for them.
Yeah.
And other manufacturers, so Samsung and LG haven't said anything, obviously. I'm sure LG will probably say something. Guys, they built an update center in Korea. Like, this update's have to be rolling out of the update center real soon. I feel like we haven't made enough. Visit the update center.
We haven't made enough fun of the update center. We need to make sure that we do that.
I think I covered that entirely too seriously.
I need some updates from the update center. Samsung will get around to it.
And you know what? They'll definitely update all those carrier phones, and then mysteriously, like a month later, they'll update the unlocked one because Samsung is ridiculous in the way they handle unlocked.
I'm sure
updates.
There's a really good, bad organizationally dysfunctional reason for that. Anyway. Other brands, Essential already got it, so that's exciting to an entire subreddit of people. The Pixel phones obviously already have it, and I think that covers the mainstream stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's most of the brands. If you're not in that list, you probably have a phone that's not getting Pi. Yeah, I think that wraps up. Unless anybody else wants to talk about anything this week, whatever, share.
Nope, I think
I could tell you all about how terrible the Surface Go is.
Oh God, Ryan went and bought a Surface Go at Micro Center on an impulse buy, and he hates it.
I regret nothing so much as this.
Yeah,
it's so bad. It's so sad because I read the reviews and I'm like, wow, Microsoft made a good $500 computer. That's really impressive.
Exactly. I was fooled by those same reviews, man.
So it has a USB Type-C port, but it uses some goofy proprietary connector to charge, which I just think is the funniest thing.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can't charge by a Type-C?
It can. Yeah. So it can actually charge by a Type-C, but I guess more slowly. Yeah.
Okay.
And I cannot get this thing to disable S mode. Like, nothing I do will disable S mode. It doesn't work.
That's annoying. I mean, I still want to. I kind of want to try it because after using Tab S4 and experiencing that like god awful tablet life, I want to try Microsoft's take on the concept because that's basically what the Surface Go is.
I mean, good. Oh,
and I'm here to help.
I'm sorry.
You know what? That's a lie because Cortana
someone finally used Cortana.
Oh well, that's fun. All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and call it a night with that. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, everybody.